I'm just looking at the table for inspiration just to get us getting back on point. I'm going to be a little bit selfish for this next one. I'm going to hit you with, right? Throughout the time I've been on Sorare, been exposed to J League, definitely my favourite J League player has been Arturo Isaka. So you'll know way more about him than I do, of course. For the viewers at home, he's an attacking midfielder. He does okay. He's nothing amazing. But he's at Urawa Red Star at the moment. Do we think he's going to have a really good season? Or what's your thoughts on Isaka and Urawa Red Star, or Red Diamonds, I beg your pardon, in general?
No, they're not Red Diamonds anymore. They are Urawa Reds.
Just Urawa Reds? Okay.
Because the diamonds refers to Mitsubishi, which is the car company. And Mitsubishi means 6 stars. So they're like, nope, keep the diamonds out of it. So technically, they are the Urawa Reds. So what was the name of the player? I didn't quite get the pronunciation.
Arturo Isaka?
Ataru. See? Isaka. Ataru Isaka.
Isaka.
Yeah. He was quite decent at Casio Reso.
Yep, he
scored
was.
a few goals there and snapped up by Urawa Reds. They basically gave a free rein to Ricardo Rodriguez, the Spanish manager. And he's been snapping up players left, right, and centre. What's quite interesting is the fact that they've got 3 unusual Scandinavians signed up now, as opposed to the usual Brazilians and Koreans. But I digress. So Ataru Isaka is basically, he's very good in the hole, I guess is the technical term, eh?
Yep.
I'm not sure if that's you're allowed to say that anymore.
If you could hit the subscribe button, I do daily global football content, everything from Wonder Kids and Rising Star Managers to fantasy football and watch-alongs. That will also automatically enter you into my April giveaway. This month I'm giving away a 1 of 100 Belgium Youth International, Ewood Pletench, and 2 limited goalkeepers. If you want to stick around to the end of the video, we'll get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah. So yeah, he's I like him. Yeah, he's got flashes, and the fact that he's not been sort of forced out by a big name coming in like Juncker, although Juncker appears to spend more time on the treatment table anyway. So, but yeah, Isaka's pretty good, and he takes free kicks and penalties, and so definitely a card. He's one of the cards that I never had, and I always look at it and think, I'll get it this time, and it's still too expensive. And then I send out like 6 trades and they all get rejected. So then I get depressed, and then I take pills, and then the next thing you know, it's Sunday.
I managed to get one of, I got a limited Isaka yesterday with a new design and whatever, just to add them to the rest of them. So it was literally one of the very first cards I bought, and I say with Kashiwa, him and Alonga were deadly, and then Alonga obviously went, Kashiwa fell on their backside, and then Uruguay seems to be doing pretty good, and that kind of, I'm watching from the outside. He seems to play number 10 in the hole. And I think he's played a couple of games up front, but I don't know if that's just the app I'm looking at has mispositioned him or something. But
yeah, well, they've got no forward. I mean, they got rid of KOROKI, who was, basically 36, but he's, I think KOROKI along with Mu Kanazaki at Nagoya Grampus are probably the most natural Japanese finishers that we have at the moment.
Okay.
Kanazaki's been injured for a year, so a lot of people don't know him either. But he's on the way back if he gets selected. I mean, they've got a lot of players at Nagoya, but we're talking about Reds, and they've had a lot of injuries. So I mean, really? For exactly Juncker, and then KOROKI was shifted out. So he's had to play up front too. I mean, even Akimoto seems to be a left back, maybe a left winger, maybe a fighting midfielder. He's been playing up front as well. So. I think the fact that Juncker seems to be chronically injured, he seems to have something that needs to be managed. I think, Isaka's one of the better ones, because they are going to have, hey, concentrate you. They're going to have a whole bunch of players available soon. And these guys like Koizumi, people have seen Koizumi play, for example. He's a great little player. Akimoto plays all over the field. And they're good players, but because he's been buying so many players and bringing them in, there's a new foreign player just in, who obviously there's going to be no cards on Sorare because he missed the photo day. And then the third foreigner's just joined. I haven't even learnt their names because I knew I wouldn't have to talk about them. But so I think that a lot of the youngsters, because he's buying decent foreign players, they're obviously got some decent scouts out there, unlike a lot of Japanese teams who just couldn't be bothered, or they just pick some.
Well, this David Moberg Carlson guy definitely strikes. So when you said the three Scandinavians, I knew about Junkert and Schultz because I seen them in packs yesterday. But I thought, who's the third? And this Swedish guy is really interesting. So what I really like about this guy's profile is he's been at Sparta Prague for the last like 4 or 5 years, and in that time, if you look at his record for them, he's racked up 10 appearances in the Europa League and 4 in the Champions League. So, like, you know, fair enough, it's Sparta Prague and whatever, but he's 28. He's got some Sweden caps as well. You know, he's got 3 caps for Sweden, got a bunch of youth credentials with Sweden. So he's just rocked up with a big injury. It looks like, I say you'll be much closer to it than I, but he's somebody that has a profile I would be very much interested in following this year. You know, is he a guy that'll adapt? Will he stay fit? Because a guy like you know, when the guys do come back from Europe to Japan, like Muto, these types of guys, that they've been playing at a higher standard, you know. And then generally when you make those transfers from like the European teams, and maybe you move to America, South America, Scotland, Japan, wherever it may be, you're used to your bar being up here, and then you've definitely got a year or two where, like in my opinion anyway, that kind of exposure you've had at the higher level still carries you quite a far way in that kind of move, if that makes any kind of sense. So this guy appeals to me.
Yeah, he looked good. I mean, they saved him the number 10 shirt, and he came on, I think, half time 2 games back and scored in the 47th minute or something like that. So, and it was a nice goal, very nicely done. But I say 3 Scandinavians, but that's 1, 2, 3, because they've just signed Alex Schalk from Servette in Switzerland. So obviously they've got somebody doing the business over there, because that's 4 Scandinavians who are going to be pushing the players out. But and I have to mention Yusuke Matsuo, who anybody that follows my tweets or follows my or even looks at my gallery will see I've got about 7 of him. He's a great player, Matsuo, but he hasn't been injured. I spoke to the name dropper. I spoke to the manager, Mr. Rodriguez, who told me that.
Is that his guy?
He's got a funny Spanish accent, but he's okay. Sorry, Rodrigo, if you're listening, sorry, mate. No, he's very nice. Because he took Tokushima Vortis from J2 to J1 2 years ago. Oh, cool. But then Red stole him away. I like Matsuo, and I think he'll be able to get a chance to play as well. So they've got like Okubo, Akimoto, Matsuo, Koizumi, Hirano, Matsuzaki, Shibato, Sekine, Moberg, Atsuki Ito, KENYU. They've got 11 players who could play the 4 or 5 positions of midfield with ease. In fact, I don't think they've got a weak player. I mean, not like some of the teams that have like a bunch of fillers.
Yeah.
So they're going to be a minefield of DMPs for sure.
Oh, I hope it's not Osaka. Probably the other team that I think a lot of viewers of the content will be very closely paying attention to this season is Kashima Antlers, because of the under-23 contingent that you find there with guys like UEDA, TSUNEMOTO, Sekigawa. There's a few guys that I'm even familiar with still. I know Sion Suzuki's been dropped, but they do have a really strong following. So where Kashima, they're one of the teams that I definitely recognise their shirts, their badges on tons of teams that you see on the Twitter timelines and all these types of places. A big part of it is the U23 element, of course. But for yourself, the Antlers this year, like, what's your kind of vibe on them? Are they going to do good, or are they going to let us down?
Well, Yuma Suzuki plays for them, so they're basically a bunch of wallies.
Suzuki's back, yeah. Suzuki's back from Belgium.
Well, he's a bad boy, shall we say? There's not many players in Japan that do this like gamesmanship and
Oh, okay, yeah.
But so you can't have everything, and I think the Japanese national team could do with a bit of that kind of thing, But on the other hand, I think no, I don't want to see that. And he came back. He got Patrick sent off against Gamba like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I don't know if you saw that. But,
no, I didn't. Good one.
He took Patrick down from behind with a 2-footed tackle, and then Patrick sort of tried to play on us. So he actually tried to stay on his feet, instead of rolling around like most Brazilians would. And he stayed on his feet, and he sort of pushed himself up, and and Suzuki grabbed his legs and held him back down again, and Patrick basically put his hand on his chest and pushed himself up again and ran up. And then Suzuki went down screaming, holding his face, and rolled around, and Patrick got a red card. And I mean, the Japanese TV, I mean, he's very, they don't highlight, they don't highlight own goals. They don't mention who scored the own goal, for example. Then
wow.
They don't embarrass anybody. They don't highlight referee mistakes, unlike the rest of the world that show it over and over and over.
It's good practice, by the way.
Huh?
Good practice, I'd say.
Oh, but the Japanese commentary team were they were saying, well, that's a tad unfair, isn't it? I do believe that Mr. Suzuki has slightly overreacted there, or words to that effect,
Yeah.
which is quite strong for Japan. So I hate the guy, but yeah, but he is my main forward right now. They've got a bunch of these historically. I mean, they're another team that have a very good academy, and they've historically sent players overseas, and they're known for. They had a general manager who's been there at least 20 years or more, who basically, if a player wants to leave, he will allow him to leave whenever he wants immediately. They don't hold these guys back because they know an unhappy player is not going to do the business for them. And then these players come back, happy to do so. The people on Sorare won't know Ogasawara, for example, who played in Italy and came back and had another 6 or 7 good seasons at Antlers. Koji Nakata played in Switzerland, came back. But the current left back, ANZAI, was also in Europe for a couple of years and came back, and he's playing very well indeed.
Nice.
And of course, Suzuki, although I think Suzuki didn't really want to come back, but nobody wanted him. And, he wanted to play in Italy, or he really even hoped for the Premier League. The problem is he also couldn't have a chance in the Premier League because you need to play 75% of the last 2 years, blah, blah, blah. And he's basically hated by the current Japanese manager. No. He just completely, I think once Suzuki made a comment that, why aren't I playing? What's the problem? And, that was enough for him to be ignored for the next 2 years. So we shall see. But Ueda is also, desperate to go overseas apparently. But I don't think he was happy with the offer that Hearts gave him, or whoever it was in the end.
Yeah, Hearts were in for it. That's right.
So, but he's very decent. So they got, as you say, I mean, ideally, they took a great player called HIGUCHI, YUTA HIGUCHI, of course, and he's already in there playing very well.
Okay.
And I've got Araki. I don't know how long he'll stay there, Ryotaro Araki, but
he's a sensation.
So they've got the, as you say, the excellent under 23 players who if only Oki would get back in goal, we're all set, right?
Yeah.
I think Kashima Antlers, along with Sanfrecce Hiroshima, have both suffered the fact that they have new managers, but they couldn't get into the country until literally about 3 weeks ago. For both of those teams, they've finally got their new foreign managers. And meanwhile, those two teams have been run by temporary managers, head coaches kind of thing. And in the case of Antlers in particular, the head coach now used to play with KWOUN, the goalkeeper.
Oh, cool.
So he trusts him.
Yeah.
It's the easy way out. And it's his friend. Maybe he doesn't want to upset him. I don't know. So both, a bit of hope for those who own Oki at Kashima Antlers or Osako at Sanfrecce Hiroshima. The new managers are here. The new managers have had 3 weeks to see them playing. They've had a 2-week break. I'm not suggesting it's going to happen tomorrow, but by the time, of course, this is done, we'll know.
Yeah.
But I do think that both Osako and Oki will, get back in eventually. And they are long-term holds, if I may do some technical term there, because I'm not really into stats and things, but, yeah. So Antlers, yeah, great. I do like ANZAI. And let's face it, they lost, Machida has gone to Sint-Truiden in Belgium.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I was having a chat with somebody in my live stream last night about Machida, or I know I've pronounced that wrong, I'm sorry, right? But somebody was saying to me he's only actually in Belgium on loan, and there's a chance he's going to return to the Antlers this year.
He's only on loan until June, so basically the end of the season, which is, I guess they've only got 2 or 3 games left, haven't they? So the chances are Machida may come back, or they may extend the loan or go somewhere else, who knows, but yeah, he's on loan right now, so yeah. And then they let Inukai go as well to Urawa Reds. So basically, their both centre-back partnership has gone. And then Sekigawa's come in, and he had a great time. Everybody's buying him up, and then he had a couple of bad games and a red card. So, but I think Sekigawa's, one, again, a long-term hold. and he's doing well. And they've got Naoki Hayashi, who hasn't hardly getting a chance.
Yep.
I thought he was about to get in a good chance, especially Kim Min-tae, who's gone AWOL. But Hayashi's gone for 2 months with an injury now, so which is sad. But you know, they're okay. They've got so everybody wants to know about Tsunemoto.
Yep.
You know, he's doing extremely well. I think he missed a couple of games at the start of the season, right, and everybody panicked. But I think he's the man. He's the main man. Rikuto Hirose is quite decent too, and grabbed his place a couple of times. But you know, I mean, they are a strong team. I'm not sure. You know, the new manager, I know absolutely nothing about him except he looks like one of the Pokemon.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, right enough. Not, a shiny face.
I'm not sure which one, but yeah, it looks a bit like a hamster. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you shiny face for sure.
Keep away from Richard Gere, huh?
That's it. So I think like Kashima, I say so many people that play Sorare. There's a Tsunemoto, there's a Sekigawa, there's a Araki. There's lots of guys to get tied in there. One thing I'm always quite cautious of when it comes to like me trying to get into a new league or trying to understand stuff or try to get my head under the bonnet or whatever with what's going on is I try my best to not let like the players I know or what I'm trying to do on this occasion certainly is not to try and let that kind of stuff influence me, because sometimes like sometimes if you go looking for a guy, you'll find him, right? But it might not really be the guy. So it's like, oh, I need a U23 defender. And if you look hard enough, you'll find somebody you can convince yourself for, you know. But so basically what my point of this is like I did that at the very beginning with J League, and then what I find now is I'm kind of returning to it is what I don't want to do is just go find guys for the sake of it. I'm looking forward to kind of discovering guys and watching guys on screen. And you know, some of the chat we've had already so far has given me a wee bit of food for thought. Oh, I like the sound of that manager. Let's see what's going on in that team and that kind of thing. See, when I kind of say that, what team pops into your head when you think about that?
Yokohama FC.
Yokohama FC. And J2.
A new manager. They lost about 5 or 6 players, but they still have the likes of Saito, Tezuka. They've got 3 or 4 good players and an excellent German under-23 Olympic goalkeeper, who I believe a couple of J1 teams tried to get, but he had a contract and they insisted on keeping him. And after, I think it's 7 games, they're 6 wins and 1 draw, unbeaten at the top of J2. And they look like, you know, if you looked at my gallery, you'll see that I've got about 8 Tezukas already. So I'm already planning ahead, and I shouldn't be telling you all this, but
I'm surprised he stayed with them, Tezuka, because he was good, eh? I'm surprised he stayed.
Well, the key with Tezuka was last season, I think he had at least, he probably only played about 10 games. He had, would you believe, maternity leave. They gave him 2 months off when he had a baby, which is very unusual. It's very unusual, isn't it?
Wow.
I think he had COVID at least once. He had injuries. So maybe the maternity leave was, you know, all added up. But I think the fact that he played about 1/3 or even less of the season last year meant that people were a bit concerned of him. And if you go back about, I think, 4 or 5 years, I believe he played at Kashiwa Reysol, and he had an Achilles tendon operation then as well, because I was watching him even then thinking he was a great player. So I think he's still only about 24, I think. I mean,
he's not old. Yeah.
He's not old. I'm 37. I'm not old. But, so he's
you fancy Yokohama then to bounce right back, and they could be a sneaky one for the long term.
Well, they're looking like it. I mean, the J2, if we may digress down there, is there's 6 or 7 teams who should be looking at the 2 spots to come up. So, and there's a playoff as well, so 3 teams may come up. So that was probably a little facetious, you know, because I don't know. I think looking at, I think for Sagan Tosu, they always promise. Every season they basically have got no money. You know, they have no budgets. Yeah. They lose. They either lose the good players like Higuchi, for example, or
Eduardo.
They unload them anyway, because the salaries, you know, they got so good that, you know, they're going to be on double their salaries. So the Japanese system of contracts is such that the agents here have all the power, and basically everything is a 1-year contract, and you know, hopefully you roll it over if you're any good. But it also means that some agent can say, okay, we'll find you another team, and boom, he's gone. So Sagan Tosu, well, like 5 years ago, they were top of the league for about a month, and they fired their manager. Now I don't know what that was about, and he's now actually at Jeff United.
Oh.
But there was something going on back there, and then the current manager took over from the manager last year, and he was, shall we say, mutually excommunicated because of power harassment.
Wow, power harassment.
He apparently smacked around like 16-year-olds and whatever, and pushed them against drinks machines. But hey, you know,
wow.
In Japan, that's a bad thing, you know. But you know, Fergie or Mourinho are probably doing that with the tea ladies, you know. So
maybe Fergie. Don't know about Mourinho. Don't think he's got the balls. But what I think about when you say Sagan Tosu, I only really had an exposure to them last year. They struck me as a very resolute defensive team. And when I look at their record for this season already, 6 games, 5 draws, 1 win. You know, they're not 3 goals scored, 2 conceded. You know, so you know, getting a clean sheet seems to be what they're all about. You know, they seem to be digging that.
And they're doing quite well because, you know, they're basically the defense is injured. Hwang Seok-ho is one of the best centre backs. He's out for 2 months with I'm not sure, the translations seem to suggest a dislocated or ligament problem with his elbow. You know, probably too much of this, though. You know,
Boom.
Into Suzuki's face. Yeah, I wish you would. So, but so the guy called Tashiro, who's been like basically the 3rd or 4th choice centre back, who played about 3 games last season, has played the last couple of games and clean sheets. He's got no hair, but I don't care. He's all right. So I mean, yeah, basically they're a very strong team at the back, but they struggle to score. But they've got a couple of. I mean, they've got Miyashiro, who he's on loan from Kawasaki Frontale, and he was at Tokushima Vortis last season. And he was one of the players that everyone was hoping played more often. They were paying like, you know, 300, 400, 500. What do you call it? Euros and pounds, whatever, last year.
Yep.
He's on the bench today. He started last week. He seems to be injury prone, but hopefully he's going to play. But he's very good. Kakita played today. Was on the bench last week. Came on. The last time they won 1-0, he scored like, you know, after he came on as a sub. So
he's from Vortis as well.
He was, yep. So they've got a couple of decent forwards, and Yuji Ono isn't that bad at all. Played at Gamba. I remember seeing his debut when he was about 16, I think. I had no idea who he was, and he came on the telly, and he came on after about 67 minutes or whatever it was. And, you know, a minute later, he just ran through the whole defense and he didn't score. But I mean, who is this kid? You know? He actually went to, I think he left the country at about 18 and went to Europe for quite a while.
Yeah, Liège for 2 years and then St. Trudon for 2 years. Yeah.
Founded Liège, and he did his knee. I think he had cruciate ligaments twice within 3 years. So sadly, he's an injured. When he played for Sagan Tosu, you know, long time ago. So you know, I mean, they've got some decent attackers, but yeah, they definitely look at the defense. But Kei Koizumi seemed to be a player that's growing nicely. He was at Shonan Bellmare and I think Kashima Antlers before that. So he's not that, you know, as I say, they're another team. They're a bunch of journeymen, basically, no real stars. Park, the keeper, Park, is very reliable. Park Il-gyu. He used to play for Yokohama F. Marinos, and how he got to Sagan Tosu is quite an interesting story, which I shall regale you with, because Takaoka is at Yokohama F. Marinos now, and Takaoka is one of the better keepers on Sorare right now.
Yep.
And he played for Sagan Tosu, and 2 seasons back, Yokohama F. Marinos were in the Champions League. I guess, I don't know if it's like it's in Europe, in the Champions League. Not that you can call it a Champions League in Europe, really, can you? But you know, that team where all those big team, that thing, they Park Il-gyu was registered as a foreign player, but they had all these decent Brazilians that they wanted to play, so they needed a keeper. So they just basically asked Sagan Tosu to switch keepers, and it was supposed to be a loan, just a short-term thing. And Takaoka went to Marinos, and Park went to Sagan Tosu. And then, you know, they just kept it as it was. They stayed up and signed full contracts. But yeah, can we borrow your keeper for a while? Yeah, okay, so
That's
we did.
crazy. I always think that clubs don't do that type of trading enough. You know, so many times it's like players just try, clubs just try and sell players that they don't need anymore for whatever motivation. But I think, you know, Arsene Wenger said it about 10, 15, maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, but he said, like, in the future, all transfers will be free transfers because all the players are going to want to scoop up all those transfer fees for themselves and sign on bonuses when they go out of contract. And when I think about that, or when we have this kind of chat, I always think, yeah, clubs like just don't actually just trade enough. Oh, sorry. They don't actually just like trade enough sort of things. So I know that's actually quite a funny story. It seems to maybe have backfired a wee bit on Yokohama because that guy's like the clean sheet records Sagan Tosu have had since I've been aware of them has been impressive, certainly. And Yokohama definitely didn't have that record last year, or was it the year before?
Yeah, true.
So I'll say this is definitely the last thing I'll ask you, right? And then I need to let you go, right? So let's see, last year, one of the very few stories of the J League that I tried to follow, and this might not even have been a story to you, right, was Joel Chima Fujita, right? So you'll probably be aware, like you'll definitely be aware, but if yours at home, he's at Yokohama F Marinos this year. I bought this guy's 1 of 100 rookie card last year because when Vortis got promoted, he's like an 18-year-old midfielder at the time. He's like 19, 20 now. But he was like on set pieces. He had like double-figure assists, a couple of goals. And that was like his very first professional season for Vortis. They got promoted. They were in J1. He didn't play that much last year, as we know. Started playing into the season, yada, yada. He's at Yokohama. What I want to ask you, Japan-sama, is who is this year's Joe Chima Fujita? The random young kid that could do good.
Joel Chima Fujita.
Yeah. Is he the same? Will it be him again?
Random young kids. I like Hisashi Apia Tawiya. It's strange that we're going for the for want of a better word, the mixed players. But he's Kyoto Sanga. He was at Vegalta Sendai last season and stayed in J1. Uh-huh. And he looks pretty strong and very decent.
Well, what team is he at? Sorry,
Kyoto Sanga. So Hisashi Apia Tawiya. So I like him. I should basically I could probably look at my gallery now and say, hey, with this guy and this guy. Gamba Osaka have a player called Hiroto Yamami.
Hiroto Yamami. Yeah, is he cool?
He's cool. He's a typical Japanese thing, like for example, Hatate and Mitoma, who we all know about.
Yep.
Burst onto the scene in the last couple of years. Mitoma is 24. I think Hatate is 23, I believe. So that many people would ask those people who don't know Japan, is like, these guys 22 and 23 and they're having their first good season. Whereas in England, you know, for example, Wayne Rooney was playing when he was 16. And, you know, if you look at every team in the Premier League or Spain or whatever, there's always some 16 or 17-year-old protege is going to be the next Messi. Or the next Nishikawa, I don't know. So, but Japan, a lot of players will go through the university system all the way.
Yep.
And then the university system is there's a very good. Well, high school is even bigger than university. The high school system, the final of the high school is played on in the national stadium and is absolutely packed. But even the last 64 or the last 128 or whatever, it's on TV. You know, high school games are on television in Japan, and some of the high school kids are stars, and I will mention one in a moment. But then they go to university, and ironically, the university league is not quite as big as the high school league. I guess the guys think, I've got to study now, no more football. You know?
Yeah.
But so a lot of the players will sign up for a university and will sort of play under special license for a J League team if they're that good or they manage to play.
Sure.
So, for example, this guy called Hiroto Yamami, who I believe is now 23 already, played a couple of games for Gamba last year and with special permission. And he came on about 67 minutes in and scored an incredible, I'm not thinking, bold Dutch guy, Robbie, bold Dutch guy with the left foot.
Arjen Robben.
Arjen Robben. God, I don't follow any football. A Robben-esque goal from like 25 yards after jinking past two players and cutting inside. And this kid, it was like on his debut, 3 minutes after coming on, and goal, name made.
Beautiful.
And then he managed another goal that got Gamba a draw. So I mean, basically, he got them 4 points, and they barely survived last year. So he's got a signed a professional contract. His university's finished. So as Mama would say, he's got a trade behind him. You know, he's got his qualifications.
Yep.
And so these players, they sort of come, and they're not like, you know, 17-year-old kids who you know, fall off the wagon or whatever, and they end up sniffing lines in the pub or doing a Robbie Fowler. I don't know. But you know, these guys are already mature, and you know, they know about life, and they come on the field and they can handle things. And that, you know, that's the way it does. And this Yamami is going to be bursting onto the scene this year, but he's 23 years old. So the other guy that you should take a look out for, and there's a certain Sorare manager called Your Hero Fraser, who's already snapped him up today.
Oh, really?
Yesterday, the 1 of 1,000 limited card. I think he paid about 350 quid for it, and I think the first rare card has gone for over €1,000. And the guy's name is Matsuki, Kuryu Matsuki. He's playing number 44 for FC Tokyo. I was going to say last season, but back in January, which is only a couple of months ago, he captained his high school team to win the championship. He goes to the same school as Kikuchi Ryo, but Ryo never played for them. He wasn't that good at school, but that's a different story. But yeah, so Matsuki, number 44, he's still only 18. And he's skipped university because he's that good. And he's come on, and I expected him to maybe come on the bench a couple of times and
cool.
maybe get some games in this season. But they put him in the first game, I think, and he got stuck in. I think he upended some solid professional in the first 2 or 3 minutes of his game, and here I am, welcome.
I'm here to play. I'm having a look at him. This guy feels like the Joel Chima Fujita kind of vibe. The cards are cool. Yeah, wow, did go for a few quid, didn't it?
I also like, and he's not such a Joel Chima Fujita or but a guy who nobody has really seen yet, called Jun Nishikawa.
Jun Nishikawa, you made a joke about him a minute ago, but like, when I first came on to the J League first came on to Sorare, it was like, oh, Nishikawa might go to Barcelona. You'll remember that, or I don't know if it was a real rumor, but that's what I think about when I hear about wee Jun. What's the script with him? Has he disappeared?
Well, I can say from Shower, I can talk about it. Yeah, and let's face it, the guy, the Cerezo guy who told me this, he's not going to be watching this, right? So basically, Nishikawa is an incredible player, but he just doesn't really apply himself in training. He thinks he's better than, he thinks he deserves more than he's getting, etc. Yeah. So he had a bit of a chip on his shoulder, and he played a couple of games and he did quite well in cup games, and then he didn't get to play in the league. And again, it was like a bit, I don't know, the depression set, he. I think actually the word that was used was entitled. He thought he was a bit entitled. So he's been sent off on loan to a lesser team, who are probably going to finish higher than Cerezo. But I heard from my Sagantoso people that he was ready. They were going to start him in the first game, and he was just going to, and he got a hamstring injury. So he's actually injured right now. But that was, it's already 2 months, close to 6 weeks into the season, so hopefully he's ready soon. So I'm really hoping that he'll, he's one of these kids, as I just said, the university guys come out and they're mature and they're ready and they go. But he was in Cerezo first team squad at 17. Yeah. And actually one of the first people I discussed with that man I just mentioned, Fraser, back in like a year and a half when I first joined Sorare. One of the first questions I had, I think, was from Fraser and a couple of other guys, like, tell us about Nishikawa Jun, So,
a good Scottish accent you can do.
I can only do an air Scottish accent, I think.
Yeah, sure. That's right.
Yeah, sure. Sort of. See you.
See you.
So I like the Jun Nishikawa has got a lot to prove. Like Sugimoto's got a lot to prove at Jubilo, but I think he's had too many chances already, and he's just that wastrel donkey that I mentioned. But Nishikawa, I think he's hopefully been shocked into the fact that Cerezo didn't give him a chance. They dumped him. They've sent him off to a team, and he's got to prove himself. So I'm hoping he does, because I've seen some training, in his reserve games, and he's quite the talent, and he's got a bit of malice about him too. He wasn't afraid to shove someone in the back or hack at their ankle, which is unusual in Japan, as I said before. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So I like him. So watch out for. It's not really a revelation to say Matsuki at Tokyo, because 5 games in, he's already commanding €1,000 for a rare card. But so Nishikawa might be.
Nishikawa's a sneaky one.
Matsuo, Yusuke, as I mentioned before, he's also, people know him from Yokohama FC already. So again, not a secret, but he's snapped up by Reds and then he's injured. So I think he might be able to come in. I'm thinking of the lesser ones that I know, and there's a guy there's 2 guys at S-Pulse actually. Taki Yuta, who's was in the Japan under-16, the under-18, and under-21s, I think. And of course, I don't want to boost the price because I've got about 6 of his rares. So
that would be awful. We don't want the price to go up. That would be terrible.
What's it called? Boosting and dumping. I don't even know the term. Pump and dump. No, that was something else, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah, so that's Scottish lingo for that as well.
Yuta, I like him, and Naruoka. There's a guy called Naruoka at Shimizu S-Pulse also, who was on loan in J2 last season. But even when he was on loan, when Japan were training for the Olympics, they 23 players, of course, for the Olympics is the standard thing. They asked 3 extra players to join them. So that they could train with 11 aside and play games amongst themselves. And Naruoka was one of the guys who was playing with the Olympic team. So I like him a lot too. So I'm sure if you give me a few minutes and pause here, I'll find you another 10 names. but we're not here for that. We're here to talk about silly things like Jeff United's Sega sponsor.
For sure. That's been smashing. And Japan Sama, thanks very much for your time. It's very much appreciated. It's long overdue. And if you guys have enjoyed this and you want Japan Sama to come back, then all you need to do is pester him. He's got a fantastic Patreon service as well. It'll all be linked in the description down below if you want to go check that out. Japan Sama, Sorare Japan, you're an absolute legend, mate. Thanks very much for taking time out of your Friday evening. I know you've got an active social life, so thanks very much for sparing the time to come and have a chat with us, man. It means a lot.
It's Saturday morning now.
Saturday morning, there we go.
Domo, arigatou gozaimashita. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu.
Japan Sama, thanks very much. Let's get into all the giveaway stuff before I let you go. I'm still doing monthly giveaways and I'm making it easier to enter. If you want to be entered to win this month's prize or any future giveaways here at the channel, all the same rules will always apply. Hit the subscribe button, you need to be a subscriber to enter, then leave a comment down below. Each month, a random comment from a random video will be selected as the winner, so the more videos you leave a comment on, the better the chance you've got of winning any of my giveaways. All the winners are announced at the end of videos the same way as we're doing here. The best way to keep up with the content has always been to hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on. As always guys, if you've enjoyed the video today, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button. On screen now is some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Stay out of trouble and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.